Welcome back to another very special episode of Wrist Check Podcast. We got the whole gang here. Geneva Squad in the building.
Yes.
What's going on, fellas?
Good.
I have my two friends. Both of them share a name in common. We got Jason and Jason on the couch.
Maybe a first.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man, Jason Sarkoyan. You might know him as the watch designer on Instagram and IG. A man who wears many, many hats, but a dear friend of the pod.
Yes.
We originally met in Geneva, actually, getting lunch with Pierre.
Right.
And you had this amazing piece on your wrist that we'll talk about. And then we have my other friend, Jason, on the couch, Jason Chevrolat.
Straight from Switzerland.
Straight from Switzerland, in New York City for New York Watch Week.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, fellas.
Appreciate you, bro.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys have brought some heavy hitters, so we'll touch on that. We'll also get a little bit into your background and what you guys have been up to. Allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Perri.
And I'm Rashawn.
And we are WCP. Before we continue, we have to have what is our honorary wrist check. The two of you should know by now that we start with Rashawn because he is, quote unquote, the man who never repeats a watch. And he has a new watch on the wrist. What are you wearing today, sir?
Yes, I am. I am wearing the Urk EMC Time Hunter.
Ooh.
Yes.
I saw the gears were turning a little bit. You were trying to get that.
Well, you know what's funny? It's funny that you say the gears are turning because if you look at this watch, right, in the top right corner of the watch, the seconds are running and you get to see the gears turning.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Pun intended. What I love about Urk watches is, what you see is what you get, right? I think from afar, people kind of are like, oh, I don't understand it. I don't get it. But if you look at the watch, everything that you see is exactly what you get. It tells you everything. This is a watch for the dummies.
Oh God.
It is definitely like $250,000, but
But it's funny
you can still be a dummy with a watch that's $250,000.
But that's a big thing because Martin even said the other night when we were at dinner, the biggest thing for him is being able to see the time. A lot of watches you can't, even though they have a unique time display.
Yes,
not legible.
It's about legibility.
Yeah,
for him too.
Yeah,
it's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's all there. This was a watch that I had to share, obviously, because our good friend Jason has worked very closely with Urk, and Martin is a good friend of ours, and Felix as well. And it seemed just fitting to kind of be the black sheep with like this like coded watch, right? Because as we get into our wrist checks, we'll see there's some consistency here.
Yeah, there's definitely a shared spirit.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Urk. I'm a big fan of Martin's work and his approach to design. There's something equally as futuristic as it is remnant of the past with his work. And I love how he kind of breaks down the barrier between the two and brings them together. It's almost like existing in a whole nother plane when you look at an Urk timepiece.
Yes.
Right. Because there are all these design principles that he's taking from the past that influence it, but it always looks like it's something that's 2,000, 3,000 years ahead in the future.
Yes.
And I really think that it's a brilliant brand. And Jason actually worked on this piece and the one that was newly introduced. And we'll talk about that as well. I do have to make a comment though, because I am looking at what's on the wrist.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that these guys were the Roth brothers.
Yes. There you go. That's the name of the episode, the Roth Brothers.
Definitely being called that. Absolutely. So, but they say three is company, so we'll get into that. But Jason, what do you got on the wrist?
I'm wearing a platinum, super rare platinum, Daniel Roth, perpetual calendar.
Ooh.
That was finished by Daniel himself and Philippe Dufour.
Amazing.
It's just super rare. It's a stunning piece. I got it for my boy over here. The start of I've always been a Roth guy, but for some reason, the only Roths I found back in the day were like smaller ones and ladies' pieces.
Sure.
It was hard to find one that fit me that I actually liked. Some of them, like the piece unique you saw me first wear, and a couple other ones. Those were like the few that I recently got that were like finally fit my wrist. I have a big wrist, as you know. you see me, everything is huge. So
No Diddy.
you know, no Diddy. That's been a common statement in our fucking conversations. Yeah, no Diddy for sure.
Jason, you got a special piece on the wrist. Very, very special.
So I don't have to balance because Mother Nature like treated me well. So I have a 35 millimeter. I have a 35 millimeter Daniel Roth. It's the Tourbillon first series.
Fire.
It's a very special execution because the regular one comes like a double face. This one is a fully hand engraved main plate. Number 10. Also, this one is also number 10. You know, we very attached to details, you know.
What is it about the number 10?
I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. Something happened, you know. Okay. Number 10, this happened, you know. I found this one, number 10. I found that one, number 10. And we said, let's share, you know, and let's link our collection forever, you know. So
that's awesome.
There is something special apparently about number 10.
All right. Well, maybe we'll figure it out tonight.
It's a sign, yeah.
Yes.
I am too also wearing a Daniel Roth that I recently acquired.
Sick.
Seconds on 6. It references the 2127. So I've had the pleasure of knowing these guys.
Is that platinum as well?
Yeah, I got this from Adam. White gold.
White gold.
Oh, white gold.
Seconds on 6. Yep. Transitional model.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard referencing the 2127 retrograde. And I was saying I've had the pleasure of knowing you two for a little bit now, not terribly long, but I feel like we've gotten pretty close in a short amount of time. And I've always kind of known about Daniel Roth, but I never had the pleasure of really seeing any of his more complicated pieces, and I haven't been around them too often. And from the onset of like meeting you guys, not only culturally connecting with you two, but also understanding your appreciation for timepieces and collecting watches, watch design, manufacturing, etc. When I saw you two wearing Daniel Roth, I was like, man, I got to really look into this. Because if these guys are rocking this shit is hot.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And so I started doing a lot more education and digging, using you as a resource, obviously, and then picking my man's brain here. Also hitting up some people online that I've had the pleasure of just connecting with over it. And I've learned a hell of a lot really, really quickly. And I understand what it is now. It definitely is like, it's very easy to become a Roth collector. Like once you start getting into it and you're handling the watches, you're like, oh my God, why wasn't I looking at this earlier? Especially when you go into his history, you talk about his time at Breguet, his affinity for George Daniels.
Absolutely.
It's like everything is right there. It's really the perfect collector's brand. This episode of WCP is sponsored by Bezel, a trusted marketplace for buying and selling watches. With over 18,000 and counting watches listed from both private sellers and professional dealers, you have your pick of the litter from brands like Rolex, AP, Patek, and more. Bezel is one of the highest rated marketplaces for watches. Inside the Bezel app, you can make offers on watches, buy them outright, bid at auction, all with confidence knowing each timepiece is authenticated by an in-house team of experts. For more information, visit getbezel.com or search Bezel in the App Store and download the app today. What I'd like to get into is I want to get into two of you guys' perspective on the watch industry and watch collecting, because I think here in the States, there isn't a whole lot of people like us, right? Like, I think there are definitely pillars that we have that we identify with just culturally. We're also younger collectors, and younger collectors collecting very serious pieces, right? So I want to sort of get into, with you first, Jason, sort of what's happening in Geneva right now, where you have a lot of these young guys that are really advancing quickly in collecting watches.
So first off, you know, I have to rewind a bit and share the reason why I'm so in love with Daniel Roth. Funny story is that 10 years ago, I just started working in this industry because I love it so much. I thought, you know, I want to dedicate my life and I want to be able to collect, but first I have to start somewhere, you know?
Right.
So I want to be close to this industry. I want to be part of this industry. And the very first time piece I checked and I was this close to buy was a Daniel Roth perpetual calendar tourbillon, number 1 out of 15. It was not a first series though. It was a Bulgari area timepiece, but that piece was something to me, you know. And I remember like having the piece on my hand and was like, wow, this is something special. I'm not a huge fan of like different shape. I don't like when people, and you know better about design than I do, but when they want to find something special just to have something special and different, you know, I just want to be different. So I might try this shape, but for some reason, these shapes is something, it's double ellipse is his signature.
Yeah.
But some other tried since, but to me it doesn't, it's Daniel Roth. That's it, period. The first timepiece I was able to acquire Daniel Roth timepiece from a dear friend too. It's actually a unique piece, chronograph, the first series, Le Mania movement.
Okay.
So that's something really special. And then, so let's jump to nowadays. And so as we all know, LVMH and La Fabrique du Temps are relaunching Daniel Roth.
Yeah.
So it's getting more, let's say, popular.
Yeah.
Because like, the media and people talking about the
They're
brand.
pumping it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And La Fabrique du Temps is doing a very nice work, by the way. So that's something, we have to highlight too. They respect the codes. They respect Mr. Roth's values, which is extremely important to me as Daniel Roth collector. So they are doing a good job now. It's more and more, active. And then people are like learning, about Daniel Roth. Who's Daniel Roth? He's still doing 2 to 3 pieces per year.
Yeah.
In Le Sentier,
With,
La Vallée
Nicolas,
Joux,
his brand,
exactly, his own brand. It's a very old man who he does his best to make sure that he delivers pieces, but he does everything by himself. It's a 2-minute tourbillon, very nice. He has like different violin case and stuff. It's very nice. But Daniel Roth, the name is not the property of LVMH. And they last year reintroduced the brand with 20 pieces. Actually, the tourbillon based on this this very movement. And then they might come in the future with different things, So I feel it's good. Again, they respect the DNA of the brand, which is very important to me.
Yeah.
So let's see what the future brings.
And in terms of just the culture in Geneva right now, what's happening with like, because every time I go out there, I'm seeing guys that are my age or around my age and like really into watches, but not just watch, like it's not the big brands that everyone knows. Like they're getting more and more into independence.
Absolutely. I feel that this is something that we collecting is a journey. You have milestones and you have steps, let's say mandatory steps. You first you want a Rolex, and then you want to move to maybe something a bit more, recognizable and let's say AP, and then you know that you want something very with good finishing, and you want to go to this big brand called Patek Philippe.
Sure.
And then once you have like 2, 3, 4 Patek Philippe, you're like, what's next? What's next? Obviously, you can keep going and collecting Patek Philippe. We're talking together earlier today about the 5316, which is to me
I thought you were going to bring back the other one. Okay.
Which is to me, my
I know what you're
favorite.
thinking about. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Which is to me my favorite modern Patek Philippe. But then what's coming, after this? So either you have the purchasing power of going through that journey, and then you're gonna move. Like to me, my opinion, and then you move into independent brands.
Yes.
Or you don't have the means, but you're still in love with the product and the spirit and the industry, and then you're going for entry-level brands, but with like different. They're they're pushing the boundaries, different shapes, different complication for very like entry-level price. So accessible pieces, which is to me very interesting. So you have two different targets for the watch industry, either people with the means, either people, let's say, starting their journey. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, we all share the same love for the product.
Something that really struck me when you had asked the question about, the idea of a young collector and how they're getting into this hobby, but also collecting very differently, right?
Right.
Because, Jason, to your point, and I'm going to differentiate the Jasons, right? This is our inside joke. This is Young Metro over here. So you got Young Metro, and then you got Future.
Got you.
So
I love that.
we got the Roth brothers, but they're the tag team. But
That's hilarious.
just to get back on the road, you know, something to kind of tap into Jason Sarkoyan is the fact that his career, right, didn't start traditionally as a watch designer, right? He's an engineer by trade.
Yes.
That comes from, you know, the space of like real estate, commercial real estate and development. And so, you know, for him to take his talents from one industry, right, that's very prominent to move into another as a young guy is extremely impressive. And when you think of people like, you know, James from, you know, Waitlisted being a lawyer,
Yes.
to then be a photographer, to then be, you know, a businessman that owns one half of a watch company, it's extremely
But
impressive.
actually, it was the other way around. No, it started with watches.
Oh, you did start with watches?
Yeah, the family business was that, but I didn't want to be in the family business.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I want to do my own, pave my own way. So I started in the watch industry.
Oh, really?
And then I was like, all right, later on, I kind of got in the family business.
Well, yeah, I want to get into that
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
because, you know, you're from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You studied engineering. I want to know, what is it that sort of led you to watches? Because I do find your career actually pretty impressive, right? Because I think one would think, at least most, right? Somebody says they want to be a watch designer and you're only in your 30s now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you would think that most of them would say, okay, I want to work for AP. I want to design for Patek, Rolex, something like this. But your style and your aesthetic is further ahead, I think, of where some of these brands are today. Hence the relationship that you formed with Martin and Urwerk. I want to talk a little about that. Like, how did you arrive there, and what is your design philosophy?
How did I arrive there? Well, Martin and I became friends through a mutual friend of ours named Phil Ogle.
Shout out to Phil.
Shout out to Phil. I originally had visited Urwerk early on in the day, had, you know, talked to him a few times, and then I harbored the relationship more with Phil and Martin, kind of coming from a perspective of most of our design philosophy and inspiration came from space exploration. My passion for space and space exploration and just design and build and all that kind of led me into creating the futuristic, wacky designs that I come up with. But that's kind of where me and Martin kind of click, where most of his inspiration comes from space exploration as well. That's kind of how we started working together, was wanting to change the design language of watchmaking within space exploration, right?
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so we're like, you know, we felt like the Speedmaster was a fashion statement in space.
I love that.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, I mean, back in the day, it somewhat helped astronauts for sure.
Yeah.
But when you look at it today, people just wear it just to say,
want
oh,
a
this
space
is what
watch.
Neil was wearing, or this is what
Yes.
Buzz was wearing when they were in space, and have that nostalgic feeling. I've talked to pilots about it too, and astronauts, and that's really the effect, you know. But when it comes to, you know, function in space, it you know, does nothing. So
function is a major pillar in your design philosophy.
yeah, form and function for sure. It has to make sense from a form perspective and also from a function perspective. Just, you know, of course you have your moments where you just don't care about either, or more about form. You know, it could be a diamond watch like the Corum, where, you know, function is not really an important factor other than telling the time, right?
Right.
You just want to be flashy. And then
You want to shine.
Huh?
You
Yeah.
want to shine.
And then you have the EMC, which is a lot more, you know,
Right.
function, you know, focus on function, and being a use in your daily life. So yeah, it's just, but I'm more there, you know, that mentally, and that's kind of where Martin and I clicked. And
I do think it's interesting. Like, I kind of want to know, like, because when you look at this Corum, right? Let's take this for example.
You talking about shining.
This thing is blinged out, bro. So
crazy,
one of the cool things that I find about a couple of collectors that I know is the diversity in their collection. And I'd like for you to elaborate how this has a place in your collection the same as like an EMC from your perspective.
Let me allow this. You know, allow me to.
Okay.
Please,
the introduction. And the,
Young Metro's got it.
So basically here, I'll tell you like two things. First, like the sapphire main plate and sapphire bridges is something.
Mm-hmm.
You like it or not, in terms of technique, to manufacture, it's extremely difficult.
But not only that, to manufacture the time it was manufactured. 03, you know, we're not talking about today.
Yeah.
That's 2003.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And this is the first thing. Then second, we have a tourbillon. So tourbillon, obviously, it's a well-known complication.
Mm-hmm.
We can always discuss is it useful nowadays or not. But that's something we all appreciate because it's mesmerizing. And by the way, Daniel Roth was the first watchmaker to bring tourbillon into like, let's say,
mainstream.
Production pieces for wristwatches,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is, very good link also. And then also the diamond set, the setting on the bezel is
crazy.
very special.
It is.
And it's very beautiful. You like it or not, but you appreciate the work there. Yeah. And you have actually, so you have a baguette diamond set on the bezel, and then you have Roman numerals in baguettes.
Yeah.
On the top of the bezel and around the movement, which is like very, very nice.
So it really is
it's-
kind of like
it's
the
very,
perfect blend of like luxury and engineering
Yes.
Sure.
in that
For
respect.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it adds the functionality to luxury. And, we're a big like component of like the culture.
Sure.
And kind of how we came up in our watch collecting journey was, of course, starting with the 5-time Journe, the iced out G-Shock, the bust down Rolexes, and all of those kind of things. And when you add this element where you not only make it, flashy and blinged out, but there is also a purpose as to why it is, like to have, these Roman numerals in diamonds. That's not being done today.
Yeah, at all. It's definitely different. And that's what made me gravitate towards it. The architecture, that kind of goes back into how I started with watches.
Right.
From seeing what my dad did and building these incredible buildings, architecture, space exploration were the two elements that kind of got me into watches. And then instead of, kind of working the family business or getting into something else, I don't know, I fell in love with watches and the architecture of it and feeling like there's a little city inside every watch.
Wow.
And that's where it started,
Yeah.
I was designing buildings and spaceships, but it turned into designing watches and then saying that's where I want to, that's where I want my career to go into. And
What does it feel like when you see someone wearing something you designed? Does it still
Feels
trip
good.
you out?
No, it trips me out.
Yeah.
But then I think about sometimes like all the details of just how I got to that,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good memories, sometimes it's bad memories.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I feel blessed, First of all, I feel blessed that I get to be able to do what I love.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
Yo, Bezel just launched auctions?
Really?
Yeah, they did. You could bid on watches inside the app. They give you notifications on auction drops, and it's still authenticated. Oh, shoot, I won.
Yo, what you win?
Man, don't worry about me, man. Go download the app. Go visit getbezel.com.
Oh, come on, man.
What do you think about the state of design within watches today? You know what? Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
The Cubitus.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
That's what we really want to talk about, right?
This is the best. This is the best two to have this conversation.
Well, I'll say it like this.
Thank you, guys. I wish you a good night.
Before we get to Cubitus, I'm saying I feel like the state of the watch industry is different because we lack creativity today. Everyone's pushing for the dollar, so they're just copying what's popular. So that's kind of it's sad.
It doesn't feel like there's a lot of like brands or designers kind of pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, look, of course you have the independents who are pushing the boundaries, but
Sure,
we're talking about
definitely.
mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody's just trying to chase the dollar, and of course, part of it is chasing the dollar. We all got to make money, but you got to be different too. And part of being in the industry is winning and losing.
Yeah.
I was telling a good friend of ours, his name is Andrew, who used to run Tourneau. The conversation we had was just a lot of people kind of get into this business on the secondary side and on the forefront as well, just trying to push and sell products that sell. Or
Yeah.
and again, I mean, it sounds weird to say, like you gotta lose a little bit. You gotta also buy into other watches
Mm-hmm.
and try different things. And, you know, certain dealers or, you know, retailers won't buy into certain brands because it's not selling. Well, part of your job is to make it sell.
It's to actually educate the consumer
and
sell
educate
it.
and try.
Yeah.
Like if you're just focused on selling, you know, the Rolexes and the Pateks and the APs and the RMs, and you're not buying back anything else, and you're not trying anything else, then you're part of the problem, because the whole industry can't survive off of 4 brands.
Yeah.
And of course, there are a lot of brands that shouldn't exist that are started by people that have no business being in the watch business, but that's a whole other story. But in general, like I would say there's about 300 important brands, and we're only focusing on maybe 20.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem. And I remember a time when, you know, it wasn't like that. Everyone's just kind of being a hustler and trying to get in the watch business, and there, you know, it's a lot of scared money in the business as well. So that's one thing. And then if we're going to Cubitus, it's cool, but I like the design. I just don't like that it came out 25 years later. I think if it came out 10 years or 5 years, let's say after the Nautilus, it would have made more sense.
Yeah.
But it's just lazy on their end right now. It's more like you could have come out with that 30 years ago, and this is what you come out with. Like, you know, we're living in a time where we're driving, you know, even
autonomous driving cars.
Autonomous driving cars, but even like from Hondas up to McLarens, you know, some Hondas look pretty sick, you know, some Fords look sick. I mean, just as much as even the supercars. I mean, not to the same degree, but we're living in a modern time, and for a watch to come out that looks so, you know, 1994.
It looks dated. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, bro,
it's a little dated.
Like, what time, like Terry, what time are you living in? You know, like it's cool to buy vintage watches. Let's buy vintage watches, right? But if we're talking about modern watches, like it's got to match with the aesthetic of our time. You know, people are wearing Stone Island, Montclair, talking about winter clothes. We're talking about, you know, dressing up as a, you know, suited up, you know, people are at Brioni, you know, so you got to design pieces that blend in with people's lifestyle. And I don't think a lot of designers think that way.
Well, let me ask you.
They're just kind of doing whatever they want. When you ask most designers, like, I'm just doing what I want. Well, that's cool, but you also got to look at what's going on with the times and design within reach and within what that, you know, what makes sense.
That's so interesting, your kind of perspective on it, which I think really good designers look at it that way. I think that's something that artists do, right? Like artists are kind of like reminded, like, I have to influence the time, but let the times also influence me. And you find like a happy medium. And part of the reason why I think you're so interesting is because of your love for like hip hop and hip hop culture. And when I look at hip hop through my personal lens and how it's transformed over the last 50 years, I always view it as one of the greatest art forms in existence because it always 100%. Takes into consideration the times.
100%. And that's what I grew up on, and that's why it's so hard for me.
And that's why you synthesize everything kind of the way that you do.
It makes sense in hip hop, but it doesn't make sense on the watch. Like, what's going on here?
It's funny.
And it's frustrating. And I went from focusing more on engineering to I naturally became more of a creative director, you know, where I'm like, okay, what I'm designing, it's not just about designing something and giving it to the brand, but it's about actually being able to make it pop with outside of just designing. Okay, I'm giving you the design plus I'll make sure it's worn up by the right people, put in the right circles, and moving in the streets to make it move instead of it.
But I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding with the two of you, right? Like, you know, you're an engineer, you're very serious collector in terms of your appreciation for the past and even modern watches, right? But the both of you are still very young, and coming across you two and having Daniel Roth introduced to me in a way that it has been gives me a lot of hope for what's going to happen and what's transpiring in the watch world, right? Because I don't think these brands really know that a lot of guys like us actually exist. And they're going to find out. So in the same way that, like, you know, you're talking about they don't understand hip hop, and so they don't understand the frame of mind that hip hop's in, the thought process, how the art is created, you're still having an impact. Like I just spent my hard-earned money getting the Roth. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't just because I thought it was cool. Seeing you two wear it, right, made me look at it like, wow, that is cool. But then I went and I dug into the history. I wanted to know. I legitimately wanted to educate myself on it. So I think that there's definitely something to be said for that.
Can we double down on the Cubitus? Because
I don't know if Jason. I don't know if Metro Boomin wants to comment on it.
I think, you know, it was very interesting because we spoke about it, right? just like, via text. I didn't know how I wanted to feel about the watch. And I think I had one of those moments where you say you had to sit with the timepiece to really understand it.
Sure.
And so for me, at first, my thought process was, this is pandering. Like, this is the most laziest kind of, there was like marketing, there was like some leaks, there were all of these kind of things to kind of draw this build up, until I had to look back and say, to your point, these guys don't have the know-how in terms of being tapped into the younger generation in the culture.
Well, that was the confusing thing for me, because I remember when I saw the 6007G, that piece, I got really, really hopeful. Just their use of colors and like textile.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I like this direction. Taking like a classic Calatrava silhouette and modernizing it made me really hopeful. I was like, okay, we're about to see some interesting stuff from Patek. So I sat with the Cubitus today. I went to an authorized dealer, a friend of mine who has Patek, and they had all of them on display.
Wow.
Because they have since been delivered to ADs and are being allocated. So the watch is for sale. Shout out to Nori, who texted me today. He just got the watch on two-tone.
That's the best one, though. I think that's the best one.
The two-tone, huh?
So I'll say this.
You think the two-tone's the best one?
I think it's the best one.
I think it's the most old man one.
I mean, I'm wearing a Canterbury rugby, so it doesn't get any older than that.
So I sat with all three. I tried it on. Now, when it first dropped, I was like, "This thing is." I was heated. I was heated because I had high expectations.
Yes.
After seeing the watch,
Wait, real, let's be real. Why did you have high expectations?
Because of the 6007G.
Really?
So yeah, because the fact that they produced a watch that looked as sporty as it did with the classic Calatrava silhouette, but still kept it luxury because the case was white gold. There were all of these different boxes that they were dipping in and out of. And for a brand that's as traditional as Patek, I thought that was brave in terms of how brave they could be at this point in where they are. And so I was like, okay, well, if they're, playing around with a piece like that, offering it in 3 different colors, all of which are kind of poppy, right? Like, it's obviously a watch that I think internally they would see as like, yo, someone could wear this with t-shirts and jeans. And it's cool, right? And so Terry's buildup from all the articles I was reading about them releasing a new sports model, and he did originally say that it was supposed to be entry level. They went back on that because it clearly is not.
It is not.
35,000.
40, well, maybe Swiss francs. Yeah.
Cubitus?
Cubitus, yeah. So it starts at 40K. The two-tone is 60 and change, and then the platinum is 90K.
It's not approachable at all.
It's not an ugly watch.
Yes.
It's not ugly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, yes, it lacks creativity.
Yeah.
When you hold it,
Yeah.
it's a little weird just because the case is heavy. And so that heavy case with the Nautilus bracelet is a little disorienting. It's like, whoa, I don't like that. Handling the platinum, complication, better.
Yes.
Because it felt different. It didn't feel like a derivative of the Nautilus. Obviously, still the case, the dial has those elements. But ultimately, it was like, okay, you should have just released that.
I agree.
And I think the reception would have been better if they put the time only in the magazine.
Yes.
And then showed people the comp, and they would have been like, "Oh,
It's been smart.
that's a move.
Yes.
I like where this is going. I'm still not a fan of that watch,
Yeah.
but I like where this is going."
Yeah.
And because when you have it on the bracelet, it feels like a decision that came from the boardroom and not from the design room,
I
Yes.
totally agree with
right?
this. Yeah.
It feels like Terry's like square.
Well,
Nailed
kinda,
it.
You know what? I kind of regret
Really,
this.
you know what it feels like? They just kind of do whatever the hell they wanted. They don't care what anyone thinks.
well, I
this
mean,
is
the statement
And
clearly
that's part
said
of-
that.
I want to
That's
hear
part of the
Metro
mess-up
Boomin.
Well, my thoughts on this. I kind of regret some things here. The fact that we clearly going for smaller watches nowadays.
Yes,
And it's quite huge.
it's a 45
you know,
millimeter.
so like, can you imagine this is 35? Like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, like you would hey, what's the perfect size for you? I would have told you like maybe 42. 42 was and then I'm wearing this today. 35. And then can you imagine if tomorrow I like to
feel
change
like a 35, that feels like a 40. Let's be real.
That's the thing. But also think about this. Some people, and like myself, they like to change like every day. Can you imagine me jumping from
this to that? No,
from the Saturday
you're gonna be
35 to the Sunday 45.
Yeah.
Wow. That. I also regret the fact that they're recycling the bracelet.
But one thing you do have to remember too is you're not taking into account watches are 2 to 5 years out. So, I bet yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, they said that they did
6 years of development.
6 years.
But let's just say it's not
development,
true. It was
Research
at least
and
3
development,
years,
6 years.
right? Because they're Switzerland is slow on everything.
Doubting?
No, I'm just saying they're slow. So think about it. 3 years ago, they weren't really thinking about small watches because 3 years ago it's kind of still in the middle. When you're stuck with production, you're stuck with. They made a choice on 45,
especially at their scale. I mean, they don't produce that many watches, so
you can't really cut. But what he's going to say, like in 2020, everything is smaller now, so we're going to throw away the cases we've been working on the past.
But I would have loved seeing new, like different dials, textures, maybe different hands, different bracelet. At the end of the day, the only thing I like is the fact that they are. They keep going with some values and DNA they have, like on the platinum one. The diamond. The diamond is actually now cool. Baguette.
Yeah.
And to me, like it's the kind of thing I would like. You know what? I want to get it just for the baguette.
Yeah. That detail is nice.
Yeah. Yes. But otherwise, I feel that it's a bit disconnected from the current market, current demand, and what people appreciate on the market nowadays. It's definitely going to be something like you can check like right now on Chrono 24 or whatever. It's going for 3 times the reader price.
The two-tone is going for like 380.
So most of the watch industry is
it doesn't make
with
sense
the
to
world.
be honest.
Say that again.
Most of the watch industry is disconnected with the world. Half these guys live in villages in Switzerland. They don't watch TV. They don't know what cool is.
What's wrong about that? I live in a fucking
No, but you're young Nexus, so it's different. You don't live in that village. You're always visiting me. You're chilling. You're doing other things. You're outside of that world. But to be real, that's what it is, and that's part of the problem we talk about is people start, and that's why you see a lot of similarities because they just kind of copy within the outside of the village, or like, oh, he kind of sold. He sold 25 of those. I'm gonna do that kind of thing, or when a watchmaker leaves another brand, his whole thing is, he's not even really a designer. He's just a guy who like was good at finishing over there. So he just creates a plain watch and he thinks just because he finished it that he's done something special. Like finished it in a certain way or had a unique gear shape pattern. But really what makes a brand special is the design language of the case, the product that stands out from the rest.
Let's take shortcuts about it. Like at the end of the day, they're gonna sell it because this is kind of uncontrollable, and then people will go for it. They stopped the 5711, and I'm pretty sure that they knew that they're gonna coming in the 2 or maybe it's been 3 years that they stopped this. 2 years, and then they're coming with another model in stainless steel, and they knew it. It's part of the strategy. Mr. Stern said, I think today in a very known, well-known Swiss magazine, I have a big nose for this. So I have a big nose. We have a big nose. But at the end of the day, he knows that, he's kind of above everything, all the industry.
You call him Terry Stern, I call him Tony Soprano.
You know the clown meme on emoji?
Yes.
On the phone? If you take that clown emoji and you look at him and you look at the emoji,
oh my God.
just like his ass. I swear to you, do it tonight. Look at the clown emoji.
I'll blur your face out. When he says that. Jason's like, I'm
straight up and down. Do
I'm
it.
never getting a paddock again.
I mean, hey, what did we ever get from them?
Yes. Well, to your point in terms of the 6007, right? When that release was brought out, right, it was considered a novelty. Yeah. The Cubitus is not a novelty. When you think of in that same kind of run, right, slightly before the 6007 was the 5226G and the complicated version, right?
Right, with the asphalt dial.
Exactly, right? There was novelty. There was a story, right? There was a reason behind. Please, this does not provoke any thought or move anyone as to why they should buy it.
Well, yeah. The only thing is Terry Stern said you're a straight up brokey if you don't like it. You don't have a paddock and you're never going to get a paddock. You bum.
That was very, very bold for a owner, CEO,
because it was his idea.
Yes.
He's sensitive.
You know, something that you said, and I think, you know, for Metro, right? Because not only are you a collector, but you're also a curator and a consultant. So tapping into going from your passion to your profession, you are continuously advising guys on what to collect. And so, you know, for someone like yourself, right, you do have times where you go into ADs, right? And you speak to these guys. And Perri, you also was concerned. You were like, yeah, I'm wondering what like the guys behind the counter are thinking. And for someone that has been behind the counter, right, with the fear mongering of telling someone the truth, right? You aren't able to be your genuine self and actually feel good selling the product.
Absolutely.
So when you have someone that goes out and says, well, if you hate my product, you're a bum. It's like, well, you should kind of preach the same practice, because when I see that guy, I'm like, yo, dude, you're a bum. not to go on a tangent, but it's just more of like, you know, it's very hard for, like, what kind of message does that put to?
I think it's very plain and simple. If you don't have a paddock, you're a bum, and that comes from Terry Stern. Before we get out of here, I want to touch on some of the watches that you guys have brought.
Yes,
and because you guys have again, I think you guys are amazing collectors in your perspective and what you get.
Thank you.
So, Jason, we talked about the Corum. You have this Bethune piece. This is really cool. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so I mean, I know the guys behind the Bethune. George Heisek was a great designer, and you know, I knew about the brand before, obviously, because they're a well-known brand. But just the guys who are behind it are super cool, and they're funny. They're great to hang out with. We've had some great moments together with them. You know, I had one Bethune back in the day, and then I traded it for something else. I can't remember. It was just, and you know, just not really even thinking about it. And then I saw this, and I always wanted it. Shout out to my boy Roman Sharf. He had this in his office on his desk, and I saw it immediately, and I was like, I need that. And you know, right away, I didn't actually realize it was a rare piece. Just due to the fact that I think this is one of the prototypes before this official model came out, because the hands are slightly different. The labeling on the back as well says 205, and the other ones were editions of like 10, 15, 20. And I just fell in love with the piece just by looking at it. The architecture is different. Actually, the main thing too, now that I'm looking at it again, I realized when you look at the chapter ring, you've never seen anything like it. It goes in at a 30-degree angle and then shoots back down at a 30-degree angle. So it's like almost like it's levitating over the dial. And yeah, it just represents modern watchmaking in a traditional form. You know, this looks like our time. Yeah. You know, you can be seen wearing or driving any modern car, and this would make sense. Versus if we're being real, you look at most people like wearing, let's say if you're wearing a Rolex and you're driving a Benz, you know, Benzes today look fairly futuristic, you know, modern.
It doesn't fit.
Rolex, it doesn't fit.
There's no
you
connection.
wear something like this, it makes sense. You know? So that's one of the reasons, along with our works and everything else that I'm into. And even that, as old as that is,
the Corum,
the architecture really impressive of the dial is very modern. You know, it looks like it was done today.
It does. I thought this was a newer piece.
Yeah, but again, they're sitting there thinking ahead. Yeah. Which, you know, I'm not usually buying pieces like that or into pieces like that crazy with diamonds and that heavy or that loud. But again, that architecture is just beyond incredible. And you don't see many watches like that, like this as well.
Yeah. So, no, it's tight, my man.
Yeah. And obviously even the balance wheel too. The balance wheel looks like a UFO. That's what
that's crazy.
To me, that's what's crazy about Bethune. I love their balance wheels. It looks like UFOs.
Metro Boomin. You brought some heat. You brought one that I've never seen this one before. I know the brand very well, but I've never seen this piece. So this is Anderson Geneve,
Yep.
rose gold guilloche dial with this crazy like back and
Pattern.
forth between rectangle, triangle pattern. What's the story with this piece here? It's a jump hour.
So this one is called the Rising Sun.
Okay.
And actually here, we have this is something I'm about to say, and it's not really the truth because I'm really in love with every single timepiece that I'm buying and I'm collecting, but it's also a matter of people. I met Jason through this industry, the watch industry, since we are like very close friends. We met through the watch industry and we are very good friends. So, it's also a matter of people. And here it's a matter of the product first, because you have to, it's kind of budget, every single time you're buying something, you feel that it's kind of sacrifice that the lifestyle you could have or whatever that you could bring to your home or family or legacy or whatever, but you just
put it in a watch.
It's a kind of, let's say sacrifice it. But then here, like to me, it's first off, I'm really in love with jumping hours.
Okay.
I feel, this is something which we should see more and more often, from coming from the brands, because I really like it. Here it's, I like also this combination, platinum case, rose gold dial, what we call salmon from time to time. And here I feel like, to me, this is one of the most beautiful guilloche pattern of this industry.
It really is stunning.
Like nowadays, it's something really special. Also, really like the shape of the lux. I like the case, 38 millimeter, and I like the owner of the brand. I like that the fact that he's very humble and very honest person.
I saw his piece today at the GPHG showcase with the black jade. That was really nice as well.
So I picked it up 3 weeks ago. So I thought that it could be funny to talk about it today. So this is something. Really
what I love about that piece too, I really do like the short lugs. The short lugs with the case size makes it feel a little bit larger than it is, and it actually looks like it'll wear more like a 40 than a 38.
And it's all about the people too. The guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's just a character.
Yeah.
In a good way. He's
We've
so cool.
spent
He's
time
funny,
together.
he's cool.
You introduced the tonight's episode talking about Pierre.
Yes.
You know, I remember the very first time I was about to meet Pierre, I said, Jason, come with me. And then when Pierre opened the door, like Jason was like, no, I'll let you guys talk. No, I'm leaving now. I said, no, Jason, come.
Yeah.
And then Jason met Pierre, and then Jason introduced Pierre to you. And then it's all a matter of people, you know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're talking about beautiful things, beautiful
It's funny how it brings all
objects.
these people together from all over the world too, right?
Exactly.
You got another piece here that I think it's appropriate that we saved it for last because it is this is a big boy watch
Yeah.
in terms of where collectors are going and what they're hoping to get. And I think it's really cool that someone your age has this timepiece, not only because of the fact that you worked hard to get it, but you built the relationships that have opened up doors of access for you to be able to get that. So you have, this is a pretty rare piece.
Peace.
Am I making you sweat right now?
No, I was going to make a joke about it too.
No, please go ahead.
We-
I'm dying to know.
No, it's just funny because we always make fun of him because it's special, but it doesn't work, but it's also special.
Okay, you gotta share that story. But you got FP Journe.
Yeah.
This is the Octa Lune. Rose gold dial, platinum case. So, what's the story with this thing?
By the way, it works. I'm just being funny.
I know.
Like, there's a glitch to it that's pretty cool that makes it special.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, educate me.
Well, the thing is, you know, I think that it's also, I mentioned this as a, you know, collecting is a real journey.
Yeah.
I'll be very honest. I never really enjoy François Paul Journe timepieces when I started my journey. I was at the very beginning of my journey, you know. I was like, I always like the vagabondage collection. You know, the jumping second is to me something, I like jumping hours. So,
Yes.
so jumping second was something incredible to me. But then the rest was like maybe, let's say, too conservative for me. But then I learned over the time first about the watchmaker, how he started, his journey, the fact that he's been, he grows his brand the best way. He was smart enough to listen to certain people that helped him, build his name, build his brand. I'm also a very good client to one of my retailer, and then so they are carrying FP Journe, and I was like, you know what? If I want a FP Journe, I want it to be very special. Can you help me doing this? And they're like, well, this is not very easy. That's something very, very difficult that you're asking right now. I said, you know what? To me, the perfect combination would be, which is not right now on the catalog. It would be the 40 millimeter case, platinum, but not with the gray dial as it's coming. It's on the catalog or on the website. I want this with the rose gold dial. Can you make it happen? Wow, it's something that you're asking. And then I got a phone call. Said, okay.
Get on your knees.
The guy is screwing everything.
It was so romantic. Everybody's like, Jason's like, blah.
He's used to it, When he gets a phone call, he's just.
And just for those watching and listening, this happens with these two all the time.
Yes.
This is an everyday
when
thing.
When his phone rings, he's getting on his knees. But and then they told me, yeah, we can make it happen, And long story short, I managed to get this in my first François Paul Journe timepiece, but it's definitely something special to me, and this is something I really, really enjoy, and I feel that it's it's not regular, it's kind of customized, for me. And I have a lot of friends telling me, oh my God, I want it. Please let me buy it from you or name the price. I'm like, no, this is me. That's it.
Yeah.
This is me. This is also, the customization. Even though if it's not real customization, but the customization part, I know that a lot of brands that we mentioned, they're not open to it. But this is also a way to make sure that your client will not sell the piece.
Yeah.
When you have, kind of milestone in your life, you want to engrave a name of, someone that you love. So the love is, so important that you say, you know what, I want to dedicate one of my timepiece to you, So this, this can happen. And this is also a way to make sure that people are keeping, because, this is something, nowadays, Patek Philippe, François Paul Journe, we can name like Rolex, maybe AP. So they want you to keep it, because it's very difficult to get the allocation, stuff, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, they want to sell, but they have to go through a certain, selection. Who's true?
Yeah.
Who's real?
Well, they want to make sure it ends up in the right place with the right people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are so many people that do want these watches.
Yeah.
It does suck when people run to the secondary market. And people who really would enjoy it, such as yourself, don't have the opportunity to have these pieces. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with you guys. I always laugh.
Gotta make it fun.
We'll have good
It
times.
just makes me feel really good.
Again, it's all about the people.
Thank you guys for joining us. We'll have to do this again.
Oh yeah.
Maybe next time we'll do it in Geneva, or maybe we'll do it in Miami.
Woo! Let's do it.
Definitely.
I think Miami. For those watching and listening, this has been another episode of Risk Check Podcast. You guys know where to find us. We're on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, riskcheckpod.com, superniche.com coming soon.
Yes.
We got more in store, more surprises on the way, and we're building.
Yes.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you guys.
Deuces.
Peace.